What's up, everybody, and welcome back for another solo mining episode. We're going to be taking the Procurer out in HiSec today, just kind of showing kind of what that looks like with a single account. I haven't really decided how much I want to go for today, but try to do a little bit more mining. Haven't really done a whole lot over the weekend. Try to not do a lot of gaming on the weekend. Gets kind of busy around here with everybody out of school and whatnot, but we ended up, just to give you a few updates, the reason we have the Procurer out here, I didn't actually go and buy it. This Procurer you're seeing right now is the same one from last episode that I was using for mining in nullsec. We ended up actually getting completely moved out of nullsec, so I didn't have to actually do anything on freight service. Everything I had essentially fit into the crane that I had out there, with the exception of the command centers. So BPOs and all that stuff got done and loaded up basically the Procurer plus fit and the Tengu plus fit and the Buzzard plus fit all into the crane and just flew it out of null back to HiSec and everything. And it's kind of nice to be kind of not worrying about that too much anymore with all the political changes and stuff kind of going on. But that was kind of what I was dealing with on Saturday. Didn't play too much on Actually, I didn't play at all on Sunday, so today I'm trying to do a little bit of mining. But about the only ship I haven't really covered too much in recent history has been the Procurer and the Skiff. So this week, look for some Skiff coverage as well. I'm still pretty upset about the Skiff in kind of the position it is, but I think that in HiSec, the Skiff would be just fine. It's just I feel like now that we have everything in, now that we have that 80 million plus skill point tune out with us, with everybody else, we'll be able to delegate out some tunes for special purpose mining. So today I felt like just taking out the single account, because I think that is really important too, in terms of like solo mining, is showcasing just a single account without boost necessarily, because I don't know what the actual number is, but I know a lot of people might not be able to, or might not be interested in running multiple accounts in terms of solo mining. The definition gets kind of skewed a little bit. People look at solo mining and they look at somebody running multiple accounts and they're like, well, that's not solo mining because you have multiple players, which is true, but in terms of how I define it, it's kind of like the solo heartbeat kind of thing. And that's kind of how I define solo, which I guess is just subjective, a subjective definition and an opinion on that. But I feel like I'm gonna just probably do a lot of actual, like what would be traditional solo, to try to show you guys some of the numbers there. Now, this system that we're mining in no longer has a citadel, so it's still a benefit to have a porpoise or an orca out here. We'll probably end up using the orca, because if we go through like many iterations or we go out a lot of trips and grab a lot of ore, we basically bring it back to where we're stockpile it on the character in its raw form, and then what we'll have to do is then put it all in the orca and then undock, siege, compress, and then go back in. It depends on how much we actually mine too. I mean, usually I had to decide on, like, I try to compress it all at once, so if it's like can fill up an orca, or it's more than what an orca can hold in its raw form, then I'll take out the orca. But if it's like, if I go out and mine like 60,000, then I'll use the porpoise. And also I just kind of stop periodically and just so I don't have to actually run the orca module, because it's so much longer than the 75 seconds on the porpoise. I guess the day-to-day breakdown is like, I'll go out for 4 or 5 runs on something like a Procurer, and then when I get to a certain point, I will put it all in the porpoise and then go and compress it. That way I kind of keep up on it a little bit, and that's kind of been how I've been handling it. But the thing about doing, if you're used to doing like fleet mining, and then you decide to like go just doing like single ship stuff like a solo Mac or solo Procurer or whatever the case may be, it's gonna be rough for you, because you'll be used to lower cycle times and stuff. So it's you kind of spoil yourself when you start adding boost and everything. So normally you'll see people who add in those command bursts and they are unable to kind of backpedal away from that. and go back to running unboosted, because it's just so nice getting those lower cycles and stuff once you've kind of gotten used to it for the most part. Now, to answer a few questions that I saw in terms of Mercoxit mining, since the last episode I was talking about it a little bit. Yeah, the first question is like, as far as solo mining goes and Mercoxit out in nullsec, I mean, is it able to do solo? Or do you like get into like free ports to compress, or do you just fly around? Yeah, you can just go like in nullsec and fly through and kind of mine with like if you're straight up a newt and you're mining in nullsec and you're not part of like the block, you're gonna want to use like a porpoise or a prospector or a endurance. That way you can get in there, you can mine, and then you can get out of dodge or whatever. There are free ports out in different nullsec areas that but most free ports will have compression, but it'll be I usually don't use free ports for that, but I've also just done in the past too where I've had like a porpoise with compression, or an orca with. We have to have like an orca with compression for that, but you can have it in like a NPC null in a NPC station, so you can go basically do a bunch of like Mercoxit mining and then take it out and do compression. But also, this also kind of goes over the terminology of like, when I define like solo being like one heartbeat, and like you're gonna be solo even if you're in a corporation or even an alliance. A lot of Mercoxit mining I've done has been part of an alliance in nullsec, so I am blue and I do have docking access, so I'd be out there with the Procurer with deep core miners, and I'd be just mining Merc and then compressing it and then refining it and then shipping it out to a nullsec. That's probably the best way to do it. If you're wanting to do like strictly mining where you're like not part of the alliance or you're not part of anything, you're literally just showing up as a neutral in null, it's going to be very, very difficult. You're going to have to look at how you're going to compress it, and it's probably not going to be in an area that's close to where you're mining it, because a lot of places that do have the iHub upgrades and have the anomalies are most likely going to have people that are kind of watching for that stuff every day, because they have those upgrades because they want that stuff, right? So, and it does show up in belts in some nullsec systems too, so that's another way you can do it. You can just take like a prospector endurance and go to these nullsec systems and go look in belts, and occasionally you'll find Merc in asteroid belts. But if you fly into the belt and you see Kernite and Pyro and stuff like that, then it's probably not going to be in any of the other belts in that nullsec system, so you can just go somewhere else. It's very difficult if you're not part like I said, it's very, very difficult if you're not part of the block in that kind of group that's in that area, but it's still doable. And then the other question that was referring to Mercoxit as well is there any way to mine it that doesn't produce residue or waste? And unfortunately, no. The only way to actually mine it is to use deep core miners with the Mercoxit crystals. Even if you run the deep core miners without the crystals, you don't really want to do that. It is horrible yield for cycle time. It'll still produce waste. It would be kind of cool if they actually had some sort of module that came out that allowed you to do stuff like that. So really the only specialty ore that they have that requires crystals. Everything else can essentially be mined with strip ones or faction or modules and stuff, but Merc is strictly deep core strip miner, and you can get those for the Venture and for the there's a laser form of the deep core miner, and that's how we actually get crystals on the expeditionary frigate. There's no Tech 2 laser for the Prospect and the Endurance like there is for the Exhumer. What it is, you have to use the deep core mining laser, which allows you to put crystals on, and that's how you would do Merc mining with a Prospect or Endurance. But you can also just put on other crystals as well. So if you ever watch any like Poshman mining or something, now I'm running abyssal crystals and mining stuff out there, and that's how you do it, is you use those. But unfortunately, that's the only way to do it. There's no way to do it without getting residue, unfortunately. But that's kind of how it goes. It's a high risk, high reward target to mine, and having that kind of be part of the whole process is not necessarily a bad thing. You're going to clean up if you're able to actually be in a nullsec system and get that stuff even on like a weekly or semi-weekly basis. You're going to make a killing. That's kind of what I figured out like really early on in my nullsec living, was instead of doing all this other stuff, I was just after ISK, I was just after doing mining for selling. Then there's really no point in doing anything other than Merc and like R64 moons and stuff like that. Whereas like here in the Procurer out in high sec, we can essentially just kind of go out to these belts and just as long as we have lasers on, we just kind of have a constant income coming in. Not being as great as like other areas, but in a situation like mine where I have plenty of time to mine and I don't mind doing like 3 or 4 hours a day, and I don't want drama, politics, whatever the case may be, high sec actually does really, really well because there's an abundance of ore, and as long as I'm just keeping lasers on and going after like Veldspar, I do pretty well. And that's probably what I'm going to focus on today, is just getting Veldspar, because I'm still deciding whether or not I want to start some manufacturing jobs in high sec. I think it would be interesting to actually like get something and be building stuff in high sec from just mining in high sec. I'm kind of looking around for candidates for things that I could buy and sell, and or a BPO that I can make, or something I can make that essentially uses mostly what I can find in high sec. Obviously, you're gonna have to get like isogen and stuff like that from the rare ore sites, but I'm still kind of kicking that around. I'm trying to expand this series a little bit, that not necessarily just mining, but also we can kind of like add in the high sec PI to the equation and show how that all kind of works. And then I've been trying to incorporate manufacturing for a while now. It's just getting out to null. By the time I got all my BPOs researched, there was a lot of drama and stuff going on that I just didn't want to be a part of. And so instead of putting in really long work orders and something crazy happens where they have to take down a structure or whatever, I figured I'll just show what it's like to do manufacturing in a NPC station. Because obviously citadels are going to be your best place to do manufacturing if you're mining to make stuff, because of lower, you can rig those structures, they have better bonuses, all that stuff, but not necessarily something that a lot of people are interested in by joining a nullsec corp just to do manufacturing and stuff, especially if you're not necessarily mining. And I know a lot of people that are not actually mining in nullsec, they literally just are out there so that they have access to engineering complexes, and stuff that they can just build something. They end up shipping everything anyway, and like for me, it's not even worth the trade-off. Like all the drama and all the stuff that's going on, it's just not worth it, right? And also, I like kind of being self-efficient anyway. I'm a solo minimalist by nature, and even if my jobs are not as efficient running in them in an NPC station, and my tax is a little bit higher, I think that's fine. If like you can make a profit in that kind of situation, I think that is awesome, and that's kind of probably what I'm going to try to start experimenting with. I don't really know what I'm going to be building, because whatever I build, I'm going to have to be able to transport to a market or whatever, and we might just put it up on just normal markets, and people will find it and eventually, and kind of see what we can do with that. But that's kind of the goal. But today I'm basically just going to be doing as much of this probably Veldspar a day, and then I'll probably do an open-ended mining session tomorrow where I'm grabbing everything, because even though we don't want it, we probably still need scordite and stuff like that. But this is like basically my Veldspar day, so I'm going to try to do like 10, 11, maybe 15 million in Veldspar with the Procurer. But then tonight I probably will end up switching over to the Mackinac and kind of be using that, because that's still my go-to. But I really wanted to just kind of take the Procurer out today and show it off a little bit. Just normally just running crystals on it, and just running double multi-spec 2 hardeners on it, and 3 mining laser upgrades. No rigs. I usually don't run rigs on the Procurer because it's one of those tear down fits where I can just tear down, throw it in the crane, and then go somewhere, do a thing, and put it back up. And that's kind of why I don't run rigs on that. That way I'm not buying rigs, putting them on, going out and mining, tearing it down, and then having to carry a stack of rigs with me every time. It's easier just to not run them at all. And that's my thought process behind that. But to kind of geek out a little bit, another big change that happened for me over the past, like late last week, was finally upgraded my internet. Finally got fiber, which I'm really late to the show. But a lot of the reasons why I decided to upgrade to fiber was because of the massive file sizes for doing 4K video, which is great. Haven't had a lot of chance to kind of utilize it. But the last episode we did, that last solo mining episode was, I want to say like 16 gigs or something. It took like 4 minutes to upload, which is amazing. And I have like a 2 gig plan with the fiber, so that's really awesome. And that helps the pipeline a lot too, because for me, I'm trying to like do a lot in terms of videos and stuff like that for mining, and whenever the file sizes are large because of the quality and the resolution, having a really slow upload time is really kind of a kink in the whole pipeline. But essentially, I went from like probably what would have taken like 3 hours to upload to like 4 minutes is insane. So I'm really happy about that, and that's like one piece of the puzzle to be kind of fully seated in 4K. And we've been sticking to 4K for a while now, and hopefully it'll all keep going according to plan. And also I don't like running FSR or anything like that with Eve. FSR looks weird. Even as FSR high quality, ultra quality looks weird. So I try to run like native without FSR and all that stuff, because I just like the crisper look of it all. But in terms of this week, I really want to do this episode today and kind of take out the Procurer, because there's a lot of stuff that I needed to accomplish this week. I want to try to cover and do some comparison and show some yield videos and stuff for like the skiff. I know we haven't really touched a lot on the skiff other than just in like casual conversation, but I don't recommend the skiff in like anything probably other than high sec. And when it comes down to like the skiff versus the Procurer, I'd probably still take the Procurer out because of its just cheaper hull. You're gonna have a bigger ore hole size on the skiff and stuff like that, and you're gonna have more tank options. But really, it comes down to cost and everything. And like this Procurer you're seeing right here, this fit with it's also carrying like 20 drones. You probably don't need to carry 20 drones. You probably need to carry like 10, but the 20 drones and then the 37 crystals, all that, the whole fit that I'm running right now on screen is like 111 million ISK, which when you compare that to something like the cover that we covered last week, those ships were 79 million fitted. And I think, in terms of like, you wouldn't take Procurers out in a fleet mining setup. You'd want something that benefited a lot from the mining burst, which the Procurer is fine. Like if you really want to just have something tanky out there, if you take like the Porpoise and the Procurers out on your alts, then if you get ganked and you don't get off field, they're probably going to just primary the Porpoise, because the chances of them getting the Procurer down in a reasonable amount of time is probably not going to happen. And if you're in a situation where you have the Porpoise and a bunch of covetors out, they might actually try to like take a covetor down, just because of how it stacks up, and just it has to do with like your fit and everything. But I've actually really gotten really interested in the whole like just making everything budget as heck. And like, it's not the first time I've done those kind of things. Like if you watch the Rorqual episode where I talk about how I would drag mine with the Rorqual with basically no tank and just bare bones fit, same principle. If it's a cheap hull and you can just get it out there and do its thing, and you don't really worry about putting a lot of bells and whistles on it just to keep the price low, that is really nice. I really like kind of min-maxing in that kind of respect. I almost actually took the this ship out today with just strip miner 1s on it, because I have them now, because I brought them out from Null. I didn't have any before that, but I was like, well, I already have crystals, and I have so many crystals, and I really don't run through them all that bad. They don't decay as fast as they used to, it feels like. And of course I'm using type Bs, but I haven't had to resupply myself with crystals in like a year. Now a lot of that has to do with like when I went and bought the covetors, we brought crystals out with those. So that was kind of a resupply. But if I didn't, even if I didn't bring crystals out, I still would have. I think I ended up bringing like 50 or so out initially, and so they last a long time. And obviously, the more you mine, the faster they burn down. So that's probably just the reason I haven't had to resupply very often, is because probably just haven't been using them all that much. But I think that's probably something else I'm going to try to like experiment with this month, and just see how long it takes to burn down 35 crystals, just doing like a crazy amount of mining. But I have a feeling that crystals are so inexpensive, and even if you're running like the preservation charge, it's even you'll extend their life even more, which I usually don't, because when you have 2 Foreman bursts on like the porpoise, it's better to go with optimization. It's better to go with the other 2 over preservation charge, because it doesn't take a whole lot to go resupply yourself. I mean, hell, taking a crane out 2G just to fill that 12,000 cubic meter up with just crystals, that amount of crystals is going to last you for a long time, which is nice. And that's really the big benefit of using those modulated strip miners, and getting that little bit of extra yield with those crystals and doing that extra training. But it also adds cost, right? So if you really want to kind of just bring the cost even further down, like this fit with these modulated, it's like 111. But if we go and run strip miner 1s, we don't have to worry about keeping crystals on hand. Everything is just self-contained. We don't have any sort of like consumable to worry about, so it brings the price down, and it also brings convenience along with it. So we'll probably run a little bit of both, and just kind of see how it fares. But 15k range on this thing, you can move around pretty easily. It's no big deal. And let me know in the comments if you guys like to be running the Procurer. I used to not run it when the skip was still good, but once they kind of did the skip dirty in the balancing pass through the mining ships, the Procurer has really kind of just become my favorite. And I've taken it into low sec, I've taken it into wormhole space, but more importantly, it's been like almost the go-to like Merc ship for nullsec. And even nullsec gas mining, taking this thing out there with gas mining, you just throw whatever relevant damage resist for that gas site on there in the form of hardeners. Throw the scoops on there, it works great for that as well. Stopped seeing a lot of gas sites in high sec. Not high sec, but null sec used to have a system that I used to check every day, and used to at least be able to do 1 gas site a week out there. But then they just like stopped spawning, which was nice. While I was able to mine a bunch of our gas and get a bunch of stockpile, which allowed me to do like reactions and stuff. But then it just stopped showing up. So I kind of just have not really been focusing too much on gas. That was another question that I saw on the channel too, is like, what about just gas mining to like earn your omega and do your thing? And that's fine. Like, gas is amazing. You can get enough income from gas mining probably in a couple of weeks to pay for your omega easy. The problem is it's a time sink, right? You can find them in high sec, you can find them in low sec, you can find them all over the place, but in high sec they're very, very competitive. By the time you find one, scan it down, it's probably already half gone, if not completely gone, because of other people scanning them as well. So for me, historically, the most success I've had in getting a nice haul through a gas site has been going into like wormhole space and finding them. Then you have to worry about the rats showing up at a certain amount of time, and if somebody warps in there and starts that timer, and you come along sometime after that, then that invisible timer can be unknown, so that can be kind of stressful as well too. Whenever I see gas, I treat it as like a nice little bonus. But in terms of actively going out and exclusively doing gas for a certain purpose, it just ends up flying around and scanning all day instead of actually mining and actually having lasers on, which when you're scanning and stuff like that, you're not actually making anything. And on the off chance you do find a gas site, then you might get a few cycles on it before either rats show up or it's already depleted. So I try not to recommend gas mining for people who are trying to omega themselves, unless they're in a situation in a part of space that they can consistently every day go out there and do a decent haul with that stuff, because we don't want to go too long without income coming in. And the thing about rare ore sites too, and then kind of that same vein, that same train of thought, is Yeah, you have to hunt for those rare ore sites, but they're significantly easier to find, and they're in high sec, and the value of that ore is very, very attainable and very sustainable. Um, and it might get, if you try to chain them together back to back to back, yeah, you're going to be jumping a lot, but the value of the ore ends up working out and being more than if you just were on a regular asteroid belt and never turning lasers off, which for me is something I still like. I mean, I'm able to, mine a couple hours a day, and so it makes it easier for me to just do the regular asteroid mining because it's plentiful. I don't have to worry about too much competition, and it's all about just keeping the laser on for the most part. Now, in terms of, I know a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions about kind of how I moved everything out of null, and it's pretty simple. I mean, if you've been using a blockade runner for a while, you kind of know the routine, but you basically just come out of gate cloak, and you immediately cloak again, and you just kind of warp. In nullsec, going from gate to gate is pretty easy. If I see like a bubble or something, then I'll go to a celestial that's near the gate and get more of a better read with D-scan. You can lower your radius on D-scan and hold down B, and then click on a celestial or something in the overview, and it'll scan directly on that object, and that allows you to kind of scan gates a little bit more easily by adjusting your range and stuff. Don't have to really do that a whole lot in nullsec, but like whenever I get into like low sec, if there's a lot of things on D-scan or I see bubbles, then I'll, like I said, go to a celestial nearby, get close to the gate, bring down my range, bring down my scope or the cone, and then just scan that gate by holding down B, and gives me an idea what's on there. Normally I only have to go through like 2 or 3 low sec systems to get back into high sec, but otherwise it was pretty simple. It had nothing really too complicated about the whole situation. You do the same thing if you're passing through low sec, going to like Jita or something, if you want to take a shorter route. The other thing I've told people to do too is you can just take like go through your route once with like a blank clone and like a shuttle or something that has interdiction nullification, and look over the well, you don't really need interdiction nullification for low sec, but it's just a faster align ship. But go like 200k above or below the gate and add a bookmark. And so when you're actually coming into that system and you're going to that gate, just go to that bookmark that's 200 above or 200 below. And this works much better with cloak ships when you're traveling like with a crane or something. You can see exactly what's on the gate if there's anybody on there, and then if there's nobody there from 200 up or 200 below, you can warp again to the gate and jump through. Takes a little pre-planning, but if you want to take shorter routes to get to a place that does have you go through low sec with, a decent amount of value, then it's a little bit easier just going ahead and pre-bookmarking all those things. I only had like 3 bill or so in the crane. Most of that was BPOs. So if you're moving just BPOs, it's better to do like a faster, smaller ship. So I would probably have taken like a Buzzard or something a lot smaller that made more sense. But we were carrying like multiple ships, so it just shows you that the crane is very, very versatile, and for mining and for like moving stuff to market, whatever it might be, is a really good investment. And all of my alts get trained into blockade runner. It is just like it's right up there with like cybernetics 5 and biology 5, and then they go crane, and then they can do whatever they need to do, because I need every alt being able to fly that ship is just a lifesaver for the most part. But that's gonna be it for this episode today. I appreciate you guys for watching. Gonna be trying to do a lot of mining this week. We're gonna go buy a skiff probably in the next episode and do a little bit of give that ship a little bit of love and everything. So with that being said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.